The Second Galactic Empire from C.M. Kosemen's All Tomorrows was a political union made up of several worlds which were populated by varying species of future human who, by the point of their induction into the Empire, were far in advance of us 21st century humans in every way imaginable. All of these species were the descendants of Q creations, former star people who were conquered and then genetically modified. The name Second Galactic Empire presumably comes from the idea of the original star people who had ventured out into the void to colonize the galaxy tens of millions of years before them, being thought of as the First Galactic Empire. It is unknown whether the member worlds of the Second Galactic Empire referred to their interstellar political union by this name, or if it was in fact a name coined by the alien author who was revealed to be the one who chronicled humanity's journey at the end of the book. It would seem more likely that Second Galactic Empire was a name that the author came up with. It is also unknown just how many worlds made up the Empire. We know how many species it was made up of, 11 by the time the Empire was fully formed, but quite how many planets and moons each of these species had colonized during their lifetimes before joining together as one can only be guessed at. The book states that each race had colonized a few dozen each. The Empire is said to have begun when the Killerfolk and the Satyriacs managed to reach each other via radio communication. Upon traversing deep space and coming across the ruins of the bygone star people, these two species had begun to theorize that there may be others like them out there, and so they got to work on broadcasting signals into space which they hoped would be picked up by someone. They were. A dialogue was established between these two peoples, and they would begin to exchange all of the information they had, presumably after deciphering each other's languages. About 1,000 years after these two races began their dialogue, they would be joined by an aquatic future human species, again descended from the star people, known as the Tool Breeders. A further 10 million years would pass before a second wave of sentient species would join. These were the Pterosapiens, the Asymmetrics, and the Modular people. The third wave would arrive over the next 20 million years, these being the Saurosapiens, the Snake people, the Sail people, and the Symbiotes, all of whom had explored the galaxy, discovered the remains of the Star People civilizations and their conflicts with the Q, made the necessary connections, and then broadcast radio communications in hopes of contacting others like themselves. And finally, after 40 million years, the Bugfacers joined the Empire as well, initially hesitant to do so due to their xenophobic nature. They had been subjected to an alien invasion at some point in their history, and so it would take them a little bit longer to open up to the other future humans. With all of the member races together at last, the Empire would become one of constant communication, exchanging information on everything that they could. The Empire would eventually come across the Astromorphs. They feared a repeat of what had happened millions of years before with the Q, as the Astromorphs seemed mysterious, alien, and frightening to them. However, luckily, the Astromorphs had no interest in the Empire or its worlds. They were given a wide berth, and no conflict would ever arise between them. The Second Galactic Empire would last for 80 million years. It is unlikely that any of the species would still resemble the illustrations we are shown even a few million years into their empire's lifetime. However, we never get to see the more advanced forms of most of them. During its heyday, the empire's citizens had attained an unimaginable standard of living. It was an empire of peace, with each species living to the fullest potential of its existence, achieving wonders. But with all of these future human species coming together and creating a utopian existence for themselves, there was one race that refused to join in, a race that considered itself superior to all others, despite having much the same history and origin. It was this race that would bring about the end of the Second Galactic Empire, the Gravital. They began their lineage as a humanoid race known as the Ruin Haunters, a Q creation like all the others. But the Ruin Haunters world remained littered with ancient Q and Star People technology, giving them a head start of several million years on all of the other species. Because of this, they grew arrogant and believed they were the chosen ones, the true heirs to the Star People. They wouldn't engage with the other species as a result. After several millions of years, their planet's sun expanded to the point of making life on their now baking hot planet untenable for organic life, and so they developed a way to implant their human minds into machines, thus becoming the Gravital. Now at a point where they were arguably more advanced than the Astromorphs, the Gravital set about exterminating all of the future humans of the Second Galactic Empire, a campaign of mass genocide which was successful. It had taken the Empire 80 million years to reach the point it was at, but within a much shorter time the whole thing was wiped out. All of the species that made up the Empire were now gone, extinct, save for a small amount of bug faces who would become the Gravital's pets and then, eventually, romantic partners. This would cause much tension within what was now known as the Machine Empire, which we'll talk about next time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video then please like, comment, share and subscribe. You can also make a donation using the Bitcoin wallet address in the description if you want to. This has been Beware the Q, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.